we have with us somebody who's come all the way from Pakistan to join us and share with you what TCF's future vision is, in addition to all the good work they're currently doing. So it is my pleasure to introduce Zia Abbas, who's the Executive Vice President for Development and Partnerships at TCF. Zia leads TCF's global marketing and fundraising efforts, serving a movement of thousands of volunteers across 14 countries. He also leads TCF's Partnership Schools Network, which serves more than 40,000 students through over 300 schools managed in partnership by the government. Zia left a thriving corporate career, where he was in senior positions at Citigroup and Standard Chartered to join TCF because of his passion to help educate the underprivileged children of Pakistan, which mission he shares with his wife Amna, who has been a TCF executive volunteer for over a decade, and their 3 children. It is my pleasure to welcome Zia Abbas.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and what a pleasure it is to be here finally. I've watched the DC Gala from a distance for the last 8 years and heard about it, and this gathering today is just such a testament of, no matter how far the community, the people might be from another place, there are connections made of emotions, connections of the heart, which continue to not just relate you to what's happening on the ground, but also cause better things to happen on the ground. We will speak of better things, but it is my responsibility to tell you what's actually happening. And I'll start with some grim news, which is news of the floods and what we are doing to respond to it. So if I could have my slides. All of us who live in Pakistan, when the floods came about, it wasn't just the kind of floods we've seen in the past. And to be honest, people who are living in these areas, when the rain started, they weren't sure that these were going to turn into floods. By day 3 of incessant rains, they knew that they were in the middle of something unprecedented. This is a picture of the city of Dadu. It's one of the larger cities in Sindh, and as you can see, it is completely inundated. A third of the country is inundated, an area the size of United Kingdom. And what that does to lives and livelihoods is left to the imagination, because all of us are still trying to come to grips with it. TCF, as we have done in the past, these communities are our communities. They're our neighborhoods. We don't just come as an outsider running schools there. We become a part of community life. And then it is impossible for us to sit on the sidelines and watch devastation happen. So as Hasnain said, we decided to provide 5 million meals. We made collected data of 9,000 families within our communities that we will help them rebuild their lives. And of course, we have to fix our schools as well, which have undergone some damage. When you imagine a relief operation in Pakistan, you can imagine a truck trundling down a broken highway, and as soon as it gets close to a settlement, it'll see an influx of a whole horde of men, usually, who will muscle their way in, and the truck driver, in order to save his skin, will quickly dispense of whatever goods he has and hope to make his way out in one piece. What happens in that entire melee is that the strongest members of the community, and maybe even people who have gotten more than their fair share, get more and more. TCF relief operations look very different. So a day or two before the actual truck rolls in, we collect data. Not only data about people who profess need, but also based on our knowledge of the community. These are parents of our children and folks we share this neighborhood with. And then on the day of the ration distribution, everybody comes up with the tokens that they've been issued. There are queues. The armed forces are there to provide security. We have a location. And the result of that is people who don't normally get assistance. If you see this picture, the women of the community, the disabled within the community, the most vulnerable and challenged members of the community also get a fair chance of getting assistance. And that has always been our aim in doing this, not just to get assistance in the hands of someone, but to do it with dignity. So this has, alhamdulillah, been a fantastic effort. I have a WhatsApp group where late into the night at Pakistan time, I keep seeing pictures of people going way beyond the call of duty and way beyond, frankly, what safety and security should permit. And today, as of the 6th, we have distributed 3.6 million of the 5 million promised meals. And I am absolutely confident that within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll complete our first threshold of distributing 5 million meals. I've been with TCF about 8 years, and one of the things that continues to surprise me is that there is a word that we use in Pakistan, it's often used, it's hackneyed, it's called resilience. And every time we face a crisis, we pull that word out and say we're resilient. TCF is a little bit shade more of it has this audacity because it will allow a crisis to make it wobble, it'll maybe allow it to delay us, but it will never allow a crisis like this to completely derail the plan, the mission, and the work we're doing to journey to our destination. So what I want to share with you today are better news, things that we have been building, things that will, inshallah, change the futures of the little children who are currently making their way. Almost all of them are slowly making their way back to a TCF school. Almost all our schools are operational again. And it's not just that we are making do, it's not just that we are surviving, we're building a bigger and better TCF. So in terms of keeping our promise with these children, I think these numbers may come to you every year, but they never fail to surprise me. 280,000 children currently study in TCF schools. The Economist calls us, alhamdulillah, the largest network, perhaps the largest network of independent schools in the world. And these schools are nothing without the 13,000 all-female faculty, which not only run them and operate them, but guide them and to make sure that they remain aligned to the mission of this remarkable enterprise. And we are not okay with just this scale. There are too many children currently out of school. One of the problems that we have been facing is that almost a quarter of the students in TCF school, when they have an access to a TCF primary, almost a quarter of them do not have access to a TCF secondary. And we have lived with this problem for far too long. So earlier this year, we resolved that we will not live with this problem anymore. And with a focus on secondary schooling, there is a plan currently being implemented that over the next 2 years, we will build more than 200 new school units and start more than 170 new afternoon shifts, most of them secondary, and most of them focused on girl children, so that we can enable us that will enable us to go from 24% of children not having secondary access to only 4% by the next 2 years. Having schools and providing access is one thing, but aspiring to run a fantastic school and aspiring to give them a quality of education that you and I would be proud to give our children, that's what these children deserve as well. So we have been hard at work to try and deepen the program and improve the impact of the program as well. These are some of the things that I want to share with you today. How do you prepare a young person for a world which we cannot yet imagine? These children will go out and they will be required to participate in a workforce, in an economy which we haven't designed yet. So the answer that the world has come up with is that you don't inject with them with knowledge or information. They can access that anytime. You provide them and develop in them the skills that will prepare them for an unpredictable world. The creativity, the critical thinking, the confidence, which can take them into any room, any space, and thrive. And they've also discovered, we did a ton of research, and we realized this work starts very early. You have to build these skills when the child is in kindergarten or even earlier. So that's what we've been doing. In 2016, we took a young girl who had just come back from Vanderbilt with a master's in education, and we gave her a physical school and a team. And we said, short of changing this building, short of moving it to another location, keep serving these people, and you can't change the economics of this whole school. You have to still remain within the same cost dynamics. But other than that, you can change anything. And she went to work, and over the next 2 years, what she built is what we are now calling our early years redesign. It has completely transformed how a child goes through kindergarten, grade 1 and 2, and it'll be very familiar to those of us who've sent our children to a Montessori school or, a play-based, learning center. This is what a TCF pre-primary classroom looks like now, and it's a completely different space. It's a space which is made to encourage, not only allow, but encourage inquiry and creativity. And it's not just the physical space. The entire timetable within the school has changed. So now there is something called choice time, where the children can get up. They're not constrained to their seats all day. They can get up and explore and pick up material which they want to play with, and the teacher will only observe them and let them lead the play, and through that, she will see what skills they are acquiring. Apart from choice time, we have a place in the school day for everyone to bring meals from their home and share that food together. And the teacher uses that time to not only teach them how to share, but also teach them what to eat and what is nutritious and what is not. And this helps them, escape from the packaged foods in the canteen outside, and also builds lifelong, habits, which we all want to see in our children. And we believe stories are the stuff of that imagination is built on and that creativity is built on. And yet, when you look around you, we couldn't find great stories in Urdu. My children used to tell me, Baba, the only problem is the Urdu storybooks, they keep telling us, Pyare bachon, this is the way to do things. Pyare bachon, this is the right way. And the English books are building these fantasy worlds which, draw us in, and they're so much more interesting. So this team went about saying, why don't we write these books? And they wrote 1 and 2, and soon they had written more than 100 books, which we then went and published. And, this has been a fantastic initiative. I, as a parent, have always wanted some. I wish my kids were young enough at that time. These books were available back then. But this is what initiative can bring. I want to tell you the story of this young girl. When I went to the lab school, I'm 6'3". I walk into a grade 2 classroom, and this girl comes up to me, and she's never seen me, and she says, क्या मैं आपको ये story पढ़ के सुना सकती हूँ? Can I read this story to you? And I was stumped. Like, I have never seen my own kids or anybody, be so confident in front of an absolute stranger. So I immediately sat down on the floor and said, absolutely. The thing that got me about this girl was not, apart from the fact that she was so, full of joy about the story. The thing that got me was that it wasn't something that she was 100% good at. She was stumbling, she was making pronunciation mistakes. But the amazing thing was that she wasn't feeling embarrassed of those mistakes. She was laughing at her mistakes and moving on. And isn't that something that we would want to see in ourselves and adults around us? The ability to be able to accept ourselves with mistakes, be able to laugh at them and move on. So I felt that something special was being developed in these children, which will hold them in good stead all their lives. This is what we are doing in the primary years, but what about the middle years? What happens in grade 5 and 6 and 7? And one of the big challenges there was digital literacy. So all our secondary schools have computer labs, and if you visited TCF school, you would have seen a well-equipped computer lab, those 13 computers, 3 kids sitting in front of each computer, and we're teaching them what DOS is, and we're teaching them what RAM and ROM is. And this was the source of a lot of frustration within TCF. We're teaching them, 19th century skills. So a few years ago, we started rewriting that entire curriculum. And this is what it looks like. It's a very busy slide, but I want to share with you. We're still teaching them what those systems are, but we're also teaching them how to think about problem solving. We're teaching them what to do through programming to solve those problems. We're teaching them what it means to be a digital citizen in this world, about the responsibility, the privacy issues, the ethics of being a digital citizen. And of course, we want to prepare them for a digital world, so we're teaching them what it means to build a website, to use Microsoft Office, and so on. And these skills, will completely transform the computer, not only the computer curriculum in TCF schools, but also these tablets that each child will have will also walk into the English room and change the English classroom into a blended learning classroom and the math classroom into a blended learning space, and lift the quality of outcomes throughout the school. I'm super excited about this last thing that I want to share with you. one of the big challenges of education in Pakistan is that about 43% of enrolled children in Pakistan go to private schools. But they aren't the kind of private schools which charge tens of thousands of rupees. These are very low-fee private schools with very poor learning outcomes. And the reason is that the teachers are very, their qualifications, their experience, their compensation, their training leaves a lot to be desired. TCF wanted to lift the educational outcomes in this sector. And so what we did a few years ago is we started piloting a teacher training program for these teachers outside of our own system. And we first started with an in-person program, but that clearly wasn't going to work. These girls were not getting the permission to come in and participate physically in any training program. And the transportation costs and the other logistics were just too difficult for them. Then COVID happened, and we realized that Zoom and WhatsApp works as well, and it's something free, available on every smartphone. So we have now built a fantastic program over 36 hours, and these 36 hours can be in the weekend, in the evening, whatever the group decides. The amazing thing is that this is what a typical Dastak group looks like. And the amazing thing is the 700 or so learners who have gone through this pilot program so far have come from 71 cities. So we're suddenly now reaching into the furthest corners of Pakistan and lifting the quality of learning in schools everywhere. There's a lot more that is going on under the hood in Pakistan and TCF. But I want to just go back to this question, right? Everywhere I go in the US, people are asking, how do you continue in the face of such massive, unprecedented disaster? How do you continue to build and lift the program? And this picture comes back to me. I thought this was a posed picture, and I really called my communications person to account. But it seems that when people are gathering their most valuable possessions in the face of advancing floods, our children are gathering their uniforms and their books and saving them. And even in tent cities, they want to hold on to that sense of normalcy. So if they can hold on to that, I think we all owe them the same support that we've always had for this education program. Thank you so much for your attention.